Good morning, everyone. June 5th, 2020, and welcome to episode number 16 of the Project 2020 show. Before we begin, thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. If you are not subscribed and you love Project 2020, hit that subscribe button for daily episodes about the cards that get released. Now, let's get back to episode 16 of the Project 2020 show. So here we are, the end of week 12, which is always kind of weird because this is the last announcement of the week, but then we've got 2 days of print run announcements. So the weeks are very different, but from a card perspective, this is the end of week 12. We just had the Clemente and we just had the Rickey Henderson get announced by Topps. I think that Clemente for Matt Taylor is amazing, and people have been dogging him in a sense since his Henderson around what is he doing with these cards. This is a fantastic interpretation of the card. And then look again, JK5, the tattoo artist. There's so much detail on that card that it's going to be great to have in hand. So I think a great way to end the week. This has been a funky week when it comes to not having cards on Tuesday. We are now an hour or two away, maybe 3 hours away from the Trout and Koufax announcements from the print runs. I'm going to cover that. I'm going to give sort of my interpretation of where the numbers land and the prediction. My prediction has not changed in a sense on the overall print run, but if it does miss the prediction, there's one reason why, in my opinion, and I'll cover that here in a second. We're also going to check in on the top 20 cards. There was some positive movement in the market. There was some retraction. So where did that land in that scale? We're going to look at pre-order data. The numbers yesterday were a little surprising on the two cards, but look, the Willie Mays and the George Brett, love them, hate them. It's sort of an in-between market on those at the moment. And then we're going to dive into the Clemente and we're going to dive into the Rickey Henderson. So a lot to cover today, but let's get to the biggest movers and biggest losers yesterday in the top 20. Also, if you're thinking or asking where do all these graphics come from or the numbers, please check out the website, crtsportscards.com. Go to my Project 2020 page, and it has everything there for you. And you can quickly reference any number that I talk about here on the show. The biggest mover yesterday when it came to the first player cards of this was Cal Ripken at 11% day over day in a sense on June 3rd, 562.50 over 4 sales, and in June 4th, 3 sales is 625. Look, sample size is very low, I get it. These are just day-by-day movement. And then the lowest or the greatest decline was Mark McGuire at 17. He had 2 sales on the 3rd at nearly $500, and then yesterday he had 5 sales at 270. He did have a really weird sale for $700 on the 3rd, which I think is not I think, but it's sort of messing the numbers up here in a sense. But this will be the last day that I do these day-by-day comparisons. Now that I've got 3 days of data, we can compare today's data versus the last 3 days of trend. So I was trying to build up this file in a sense to where then we can compare versus the trend. But when you look at the market overall yesterday, it was a little bit of a soft day for the first-year cards in a sense, or first player cards. We did a volume of nearly just over $10,000, 10,094 to be exact, 91.5% compared to yesterday, so we lost about 10%. The good thing is the volume or the actual units went up to 140. The past couple of days are 127, and they're actually both 127. And if you're asking yourself, well, this data is changing a little bit from previous days, I did realize that I cannot pull this at 11:30 at night because there's obviously 30 minutes of the day left, and eBay doesn't always post their sales in the moment on Terapeak. So what I'm doing as of today, I started pulling these around 7 in the morning for yesterday. So that's why the data has changed a little bit on the first 2 days, but going forward, it's going to be, it'll be in the moment. It won't change. So I'll be looking at it really after the fact and after eBay posts all of their information. So in quick summary, units up, overall volume down on a per card average basis by about 9%. I'll be very curious to see where these cards go over the weekend. There's not a lot of press out there right now with this set, and we're now past card 100. So I'll be very curious to see these next 3 days. Now, though, let's look at the overall market and see how that reacted yesterday. So look at that. A orange line that actually ticks up. This is the first time that's happened since, May 25th. So right before our peak. So that's really good to see that the orange line is now ticking up. Volume yesterday was down about 100 cards, and I'll have that, of course, on the website here, the second chart. But it's good to see that number tick up. What does that mean? It's too hard to say right now. We don't know if it's just a blip on the radar or if it's being a continued trend. So We will find out in the next couple of days, just along with these top 20 cards. But I really was surprised to see the overall market tick up about $12 yesterday when you look at all the sales versus the way the top 20 performed, which was down 10%. So I kind of expected the orange line and blue bar to cross over yesterday, but when I put the numbers in, the orange line popped up, so it's good to see. So potentially the first positive sign of the market healing a little bit from the just dramatic surge and fall off from the past 2 weeks. We will find out. This is by no means me saying go sell your cards or go buy a bunch of cards because a run up is about to happen. But it's good to see just one single movement up about $12 in one day. Now let's check in on some pre-order data. So here's the look-in as 11 o'clock last night, or about 11:30, on the pre-orders for Koufax and Trout. So Koufax ended up with 187. When we were looking at our math of 30% more, it came out to 185, so pretty much on the dot there. And then the Mike Trout, when you look at the reservations pre-announcement and then post-announcement and delay, I'd said if we just think of them all the same, it's 11:37. It came out to 11:29. So again, very, very similar. So where does that put us for print runs within the next couple of hours? Look, I think Koufax is going to be very low at 13 to 16,000. The pre-orders just are not there, and I don't think there's a massive bump for this card when you think of the Trout. Now on the Trout, I mean, look, 76 to 85 is to me where the card's going to land at. The big question, and this is I think where I'm most, I say scared or maybe cautious here, is if Ben Baller or Blake Jameson buy 5 to 10,000 copies of these cards. Look, there are artist discounts. I think Ben Baller was saying he gets them for like $8 a card or whatever that could be. This is number 100. This is the collaboration. They could easily combine between the two of them, pick up 5 to 10,000 copies of this card, and that would just crush the print run at the end and sort of add that little extra gas. But, look, they need to buy these in bulk. They need to be able to sell these for autographs. More power to them. That's not the issue. The issue is if they end up buying 10, 15,000, how does that inflate the print run from the overall perspective in the market? So, Ben Baller's numbers have also never correlated the same as others when it comes to eBay penetration to pre-orders or to the print run totals. So that was always a question mark as to why that is. And so maybe he's out there buying an extra couple thousand or whatever that could be, and that really changes that number. It's too hard to say. I don't know, but it's just sort of looking at the numbers and going, why are these different than the rest? But look, they need to be out there. They need to be buying these. But if these numbers all of a sudden spike and not in relation to 1.5% eBay penetration, maybe 1.4, 1.3, it'll be interesting to see overall. And again, look, the autograph to me is a gimmick. It's not really why you're buying it in bulk. You're buying an extra Trout now. Instead of buying 0 Trouts, you're not buying 30x Trout to get that autograph. But now let's take a look at George Brett and Willie Mays from yesterday. You want bottom? Here's the bottom. And I don't think it's the bottom yet, but look, Rochester, 72 reservations, and George Brett 129. I'm actually surprised that there's a gap that big in those two, but this is low. This is, again, another sign that, there's a lot of extra foam out of the pre-order economy and the flip economy in a sense, but we'll see. But look, these are still kind of high for what we were seeing, before even card 75. So these are always low in relative terms. But when you think of a player adding another 30% reservations on their pre-orders, look, you're looking at Mays at 100 and George Brett at 170. So from a print run perspective, look, do we see Mays hit under 10,000? The numbers say he is right now. And I think 7 to 10K at the moment after one day of pre-orders is the right range. And look at Brett, 12 to 14,000. That again is based on the numbers. And typically speaking, the pre-order numbers have been correlating to the print run nearly every single time. Just we had some slight issue on Monday's cards because they had a third day of pre-orders, but that was a one-off incident. But these pre-orders are typically going to the print run in a very nice, easy fashion. The buying patterns are staying the same. So we will find out. I'm very curious on the pre-orders tomorrow morning. But as of right now, these cards are looking low, and Willie Mays might put up a number under 10,000. Now, let's look at the cards that got released today. So here's the Rickey Henderson. There's so much detail there, and I think it's just a great looking card in general. Yes, this is the silver frame one, but look, there's so much to like about this card, and it's simplistic, yet it's also super detailed. So a lot of great things with this card. But let's look at JK5, in his cards so far to date. So He led off with Ted Williams, then he had Ichiro, Willie Mays, Roberto Clemente, and then we recently had the Mariano Rivera. His print runs have been sort of, I guess, all over the map, but so have the print runs been for this entire product so far. So Ted Williams, 1385, Ichiro 1800, Willie Mays 1500. Then he spikes with Clemente to 8500, which some say is his best card at the moment. And then you have Mariano Rivera at 35,000, which is starting to really look like these are outlier numbers in an outlier group when you look at the overall print run of the set. So we'll see how it goes. But let's take a look at Rickey real quick and how he's done so far with this release. Rickey, this is his 5th card. Joshua Vids led him off with number 14 at 1221. Then Matt Taylor at 2104. Blake Jamieson, his rookie at 3819. And then the bin baller Rickey Henderson at 15,741. You think of Rickey Henderson, his overall print run or the cards sold, he has sold 22,000 cards, almost 23,000. He right now, though, is the 14th lowest athlete out of 20, and his best ranked card is number 71, and that is 19th on the leaderboard. Obviously going to be a little bit lower today after the print run gets announced. But where does that leave with Henderson? I mean, could you see similar numbers to 100 pre-orders in a day or so? Who knows? We're going to find out, and I'm not going to make any predictions on print run because the numbers keep contracting from a print run perspective, so we will find out. Now, let's look at Roberto Clemente. So here's Matt Taylor's interpretation of Roberto Clemente. I think personally, to me, I know the Rickey has a lot of love behind it. I think this is his best card when it comes to Matt Taylor overall. His library, I think it's wrong to say that he's been phoning it in. This is his art style, and I love the waves. I love the color of this card. But how did we get here with Matt Taylor? So Matt Taylor, this is his 5th card. So Rickey Henderson, of course, was his first, and people love that one the most. The Derek Jeter, which was 39. King Griffey at 53, and then recently with his Frank Thomas. From a print run perspective, Rickey Henderson was 2,104 copies sold, Derek Jeter 9,300, Ken Griffey 4,200, and then Frank Thomas 8,800. This is one of the few artists, maybe I have to look back at all of them, that actually has had a higher print run previous than right now. Most artists are all back end heavy when it comes to the recent surge of the product, but we have not seen a real pickup over 10K with Taylor. But let's look at how we got here with Roberto Clemente from his progression. This is now his 6th card overall. Mr. Cartoon led him off, and then Natural, Grotesque, JK5, and then Old Manaland here recently at number 78. Again, another player, just like Matt Taylor, no cards over 10,000 printed. His total production right now is 22,701, so very similar to Rickey Henderson. He is on a per card average 17th out of 20, and then his best card right now is number 78, 32nd at only 8,600 printed. So again, where does this leave us with an estimate on Clemente? Who knows right now? There's no way of knowing where these print runs are going to land, but I'm very curious to see the print run. So no estimates right now, no predictions. I will have that for you tomorrow morning. So there we have it. That's the end of week 12 when it comes to the cards being released. 8 cards this week versus 10. We're about a couple of hours away from the Trout number. Very excited to see where that lands. And we've got 2 more days of print runs to go. So have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. And I will see you back tomorrow morning when we talk about Trout and Koufax.